All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to OnEBoard Chat number 181. This week's topic is Google Workspace. Nina was going to host it this week and she's unable to join us. So I am going to be hosting the discussion. It was going to be about um, more about administrating Google Workspace, but I don't know about that. So today, we're going to talk more about how you can use Google Workspace advanced features, even if you have a personal Google account. So let me share my screen. And Bob, thank you for joining today too. I hope if you have any questions, you'll just interrupt me because I tend to just kind of
Yeah,
babble.
no, you put the hammer down.
So what is Google Workspace? First of all, I think if you use Gmail on the web, you've probably seen a Google Workspace splash screen. And like for many things, Google is really, they make things confusing. Um, they talk about Google Workspace and they mean the paid Google Workspace for education and work, but they also mean the apps that are part of the core services that make up Google Workspace, which is why you see that splash screen when you are joining Gmail or Google. You may see Google Docs, Google Drive, Sheets, Sites. These are all core Google services for Google Workspace. And they make a whole suite of apps and services that are all interconnected with each other. So let me turn on my light. When we talk about Google Workspace, we're kind of talking about all those apps and services, but we're also talking about what people are paying for. So I wanted to kind of compare these things. If you have your own business, you may want to pay for Google Workspace accounts. This lets you manage your email in the Gmail interface. And you can access, of course, this suite of tools for writing, email, slides, all those things. And you also have administrator functions. It's really aimed at businesses with employees. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. They have a comparison of different Google Workspace editions. And business editions are designed for businesses with 1 to 300 users. If you have more than 300 users, they want you to have an enterprise account, which is, of course, more expensive, but has more tools for larger businesses. And you can see that there are several different business plans. There's Business Starter, Business Standard, and Business Plus. They all have access to slightly different features. The first being how much storage per user the account has. You can see that compared there, but this is a whole web page. Let me call that up. Uh, compare workspace editions. And you can actually see that there are service-specific differences between these different editions. Google Meet in particular, we're using right now, has different features for different types of accounts, but there's also specific features for Gmail, Drive, and the Docs editors. So that's Docs, Sheets, Slides, Vids, and Sites. The way groups work, your options for Google Calendar. And if you're interested in this, you can see a whole big comparison. I'm not going to go through all this, but you can see that it goes through all these different features and which accounts have which features. There's obviously also a difference in cost. So it's going to be more expensive to have Business Plus than Business Starter, but you have more tools. And then in addition to these, there are add-ons. So if you want Gemini AI tools, that's an additional fee as well. So this is a decision. If you have a business and your business has its own domain for email, you might be interested in looking at these different plans if you're in this whole Google ecosystem. But what do you do if you are just a solopreneur, which is, I kind of hate that term, but if you are just yourself, you have a business, it's yourself, or it's even a hobby site, and you want to have access to more features because it's for your business, but you don't run your own email, you don't need the administrator features, you don't have employees, it's just you. What you can do is add a subscription to Google Workspace Individual. And, like the title says, it's for individuals. So I have a bit of a comparison chart that I made. There are two options. If you're just using your Gmail and you want more features, you can either get a Google Workspace individual account, which has a whole bunch of added features, especially for Meet. Or if you have Google One Premium with at least 2 terabytes of storage, you can also have access to a few of these Google Workspace premium features, especially in Meet. And I'm just going to share a bit of a comparison. Let's see, that comes up. So this is a comparison chart that I made. Can you see the whole chart? Workspace individual and, oh, I need to fix my window. There we go. So Google One with 2 terabytes of storage gives you access to recording meetings and live streaming to YouTube, controlling slides in Meet. Let's see, what other things you have access to. There are also features for Google Calendar, making sites where you can have a booking page and have people set up meetings with you. But if you look at the Google Workspace Individual, it has a lot more options. It has the ability to sign docs with an e-signature. You can invite people to a Google Chat space with a link. You can send voice messages. And Google Workspace Individual has access to a whole bunch of Google Meet features. You can have meetings up to 150 people, record, live stream to YouTube, have breakout rooms, polls, save your transcripts. And let me see. That reminds me that I should be recording this. So if you have a personal account and you want to have additional features to use, you can subscribe to either Google Workspace Individual or Google One with at least 2 terabytes of data, and it gives you access to these advanced features. I'll just ask you, Bob, is this something that you have access to? You have a Google One with extra storage, right?
Yeah, in fact, that was going to be my question, Peggy. So I have Google One. I have 2 terabytes of storage. I didn't even know I had, are those services available to me then? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so you could use it to live stream to YouTube. You could
Oh,
use it to record your meeting,
oh, right.
and has set appointments. So a lot of people don't know. A real frustration I have with Google is that they launch these things and they're very bad at explaining to people what features they have. A
Uh-huh.
limitation to the Google One additional features is that they are not available in every country. So they're available in many countries, but not every country. So if you're watching this from outside the US, you should check the Help Center to make sure that Google One comes with these additional features if that's what you're interested in. Um, so it feels a lot like you can have a business Google account without having to pay as much as you do for a full Google Workspace account with the administrator access and running your own email and all those things too, which I think is kind of exciting, and I think a lot of people don't actually know you can do that. So the other thing I wanted to mention today is um, you can actually learn what the core features are for Google Workspace and see their status. There is a status page that everyone has access to. So let's say you're trying to use Gmail and it's not working. This is a site that tells you the current status of all of the core features for Google Workspace. You can see there's Classroom, Currents. I don't know why it lists Currents because that doesn't exist anymore. Gemini, Gmail, and I have too many windows open, so I can't find that. All right. You can see if you scroll down, there's sort of a red exclamation point here next to Google Calendar. That's because they did have an outage earlier this week, and you can click on that and get a whole incident report. This is because it's aimed at paid customers. And I just wanted to say hello to everyone who's in the live chat. Nina said hello in the live chat. Welcome. And anyone who has a question or comment, I hope they either post in the live chat or post a comment on the video. So this Google Workspace dashboard is really useful. If things aren't working correctly, you can see that most things are green right now. It also kind of gives you an idea of what Google considers to be the core services with Google Workspace. You will notice there are some products that are not listed there. You don't see YouTube on the list. You don't see Blogger on the list. You don't see a number of other apps and features, and that's because those are not core services for Google Workspace. And while Google Workspace users can use these other Google services, usually, if their administrator allows it, if those services go down or have a problem, it's not under the contract for Google Workspace. And the other thing that we find sometimes is that users have a problem, like they have a Google Workspace account for business, they're using YouTube, they have a problem with YouTube, and because Google Workspace is designed for businesses to keep their data private, to keep their information private, even from Google, sometimes support can't help with a lot of these features because it's like, well, you should talk to your Google Workspace administrator, but because these aren't core features for Google Workspace, the administrator can't actually do anything. So there is a little difficulty sometimes for people who are using non-core Google services. They run into problems. The other issue that I really wanted to mention, this is just allowing me to talk about all the things that I've noticed people having problems with, but a lot of people, they have an account for work, they have an account for school, they're not the administrator, but they just are an employee or a student. And then they go and make their YouTube channel with that account. They then graduate or they change jobs and they lose access to it because their user account is owned by the business or the organization. So that's something that I think a lot of people don't actually think about. They need to actually realize that anything that they do with their Google Workspace account is owned by their parent organization. It's owned by the business. So if you are using Google Docs, you should not use your work account to write your novel. You should switch over to a personal account, and then you can be sure to keep that if you change jobs, because people get laid off, people quit, people suddenly lose access sometimes, and it can be really terrible because they've been using it for personal things, and the business where they were doesn't have any obligation to give them access to their data again. It's all owned by the business. It's owned by your school if you're a student. And so, again, if you want to use it for personal things, for docs, or for Google Meet meetings, live streaming to YouTube, all those things, I'd recommend having a personal account with Google Workspace individual, or you can use it with the Google One Premium. You can get some of these advanced features on your own personal account, and that way, if you change jobs, you don't lose access to all that. So, in the chat, Nina mentions Google One has all the excellent Gemini opportunities. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention, is that a lot of features that Google has been rolling out are AI-powered features, right? That's the going thing right now. But you have to pay extra. If you are using Google Workspace, there are these add-ons for Gemini. There's a main Gemini add-on. It gives you like the more advanced version of Gemini and integrations into the various Google Workspace services. There is also a meetings and messaging add-on that only gives advanced features for Google Meet. That's like the automated notes and the automating, some of the automatic translated captions, generating backgrounds. There's a bunch of Google Meet features that are AI powered. If you want access to those and you have a Google Workspace account, you need to purchase this add-on. It's a monthly subscription fee. The same as if you have Google One, you have to have an AI add-on to your Google One to have access to all these features. I think that's an extra $10 a month. It seems kind of expensive to me, but what do I know? If it's worth it to you, it's worth it. Unless you're using Google Workspace Labs, that's with your personal Google account, you get sort of preview access to AI features without paying anything. So are you using AI features in any of your Google things, Bob?
You know, that is a good question, Peggy. I know that when I use Gmail, Gemini is automatically loaded into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think I'm paying anything additional.
Yeah, I think that for Gemini itself, there are different levels. So like there's a free version you can use.
Right.
But then if you pay for Gemini, you get like a more advanced model. Maybe I don't actually use that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And I think you get more integrations in various Google products. But like I said, if you've signed up for Google Workspace Labs, you may have access to some of those features for free with the knowledge that they may go away at some point.
Yeah.
So it's confusing. It's confusing because there are so many different features and different ways to access them. and Google doesn't really explain it very well, I feel like.
Yeah, well, you know, Peggy, it just seems like you know that they're updating these features so rapidly. It they're probably thinking it's not worth their while to explain the present version when it'll soon be the ancient version in a matter of weeks, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I spend a lot of time trying to keep up with the new features, to at least know what the new features are. And they're launching things all the time, which is
Yeah.
great. But I feel like it's a job to keep track of these because Google isn't very good at telling people what these new features are necessarily.
So, hey, I've got a question. The Notebook LM, that's not a core feature of Workspace, is it?
You know, that's a really good question. I feel like there was an announcement about that recently. If Nina is still in the live chat, I think she could probably say whether that's a core. I think they may have added it as a core feature recently. Um,
That
I,
would
I think
that would really be worth it. To do Workspace and get Notebook, that would be totally worth it.
Workbook is one of those things where I was reading an interview with the team that was doing it. It's a small team. And part of what's great about it is that they are very user driven. So they did this as an experiment. They created a user community on Discord. They're getting tons of feedback and implementing things from that feedback, which is a lot different from Google's other products that are top down, right? So Google is making decisions about what features and things like that, and then they
Right,
just implement them. I think
right.
Notebook LM is so useful in part because they're listening to the actual users and making it useful.
Yeah, no, it works really well. It seems like they've ironed out a lot of bugs just over the last 6 to 8 months. I mean, there's a big, vast improvement on the actual product that it provides. You know, whether it's the outline or a briefing document, or at prompt, the way you prompt. It's really it's an awesome program. If it was standalone, I would pay for it.
You know, it'll be interesting to see what Google does, but I feel like it is something people would pay for because it's unique also, right? This is
Yeah,
different than
yeah,
what any of the other companies
yeah.
with AI products actually have. So, yeah, I think that that's a real success. And I'm pretty sure it will be integrated into Workspace. One of the things, though, my understanding is that for the core services in Google Workspace, Google has a promise about how much uptime there is. That's why there's a dashboard if there's a problem to let paying customers know. So I think they don't add things as a core service unless they feel like they can make that promise about uptime and about security and
Hmm.
keeping their various work content, uh, not using that for Google's training for other things and stuff like that. So,
It seems to me that particular application would be like the hub
mhm,
on a wheel, because it uses all the other programs to gather information and
mhm.
then compile it and give you a product. I think it would be a great way for Google to get people to buy into Workspace, really. But you know what? I don't know.
I think is I feel like using Notebook LM, it could actually be better integrated with other Google products in
Yeah.
terms of making it easier to output directly into Google Docs, kind of things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. No, that would be the way to go.
So I feel like
Yeah.
it's there and it's really useful, but there could be more integration. And I'm guessing that's something Google is thinking about it now that Notebook
Hey,
LM is really popular and obviously successful. But I hope they don't stop listening to what users are saying in terms of what they should be developing, because I think that's part of the success.
Yeah, yeah, I got to agree with you.
Um, Nina says, Bob is an expert in NotebookLM that comes for free with Workspace accounts.
There you go.
There you go. So
Hmm.
I think it's interesting times, and I'm hoping, I always think if Google just explained better all its various offerings and maybe made it a little less complicated, there'd be more users for some of these things. So
Yeah,
the bottom line is what we're talking about today. If you have a business or you use even or a serious hobby, it's worth considering getting these add-ons for your Google account. If you run your own email and you want your email to be in the Gmail interface, think about one of the business editions of Google Workspace, or you can use a Google Workspace individual subscription that lets you keep using your regular Gmail email and just adds these features to your account. Or if you don't need all of the Google Workspace features, look at the Google One 2 terabyte plan that has some of the neat features, the most popular ones like recording and live streaming. So many different offerings, so confusing. That's why I made my own table of comparison, because I had to like gather that information from 3 different web pages to actually do that, because Google doesn't have that comparison. It's a big frustration for me that Google doesn't promote these things well. And
yeah,
then a year from now, they say, oh, nobody's using it. The reason nobody's using it is because nobody knows that it's there to use.
right,
So,
right, right. No, in fact, I wasn't even aware that I had additional features with that Google One account.
yeah.
And in fact, when I look at your chart, I'm scratching my head thinking that the Google One account is more of a premium than the first one, and yet the first one seems to have more features.
Well, let me bring up that chart again. And
Yeah, there you
Google
go.
Workspace, and the difference is, one difference is that Google One has more cloud storage. So you're talking about 2 terabytes
Right,
with
right,
Google One and
yeah,
only 1 terabyte with Workspace Individual.
right.
Workspace Individual has more meeting features. If you look down the table, the red
Yeah,
X
yeah,
are
it
features they
does.
don't
Yeah,
have. But if you don't need breakout rooms or
yeah.
co-hosts or transcripts, that may not be something that you actually need. So it's worth looking at all the various features and saying, well, which one meets my needs the best? Because the subscription for Workspace Individual costs about the same as the Google One 2 terabyte
Ah,
subscription. So, and both of them, it's very affordable actually compared to some other plans that I've looked at least in terms of storage. So, something to look into if you.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't look like. And in fact, when I'm looking at your your chart there, it doesn't seem to include any of the core services. So it means that that would be, yeah, there you go.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of them come for free, right? So with your free Google account, you have access to Google Drive and Google
Yeah,
Docs and all those things. So
yeah,
even if there aren't special features, you still have access to the free things. There are a
right.
few additional things with Google Workspace Individual in Gmail, Calendar, Docs, and Chat. Again, if you use those, like for example, in Gmail, if you have a Google Workspace individual account, it comes with customized layouts and templates. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
could make a sort of professional looking email.
Mm,
And you can use mail merge, which
yeah, mail
you have a
merge.
list of
Yeah,
email addresses. So Google Workspace Individual is more business oriented than the Google One with 2 terabytes. Google One with 2 terabyte storage. That's more storage focused, but it has
yeah.
options
There
like
you go.
recording and live streaming.
Right, right. Those features are kind of fringe for me. Like I
Mhm.
really wouldn't use them anyway. So, but you know, you kind of get caught up into it. You see all the green boxes as opposed to the red X's, and you and
Mhm.
you and you naturally you think, oh, I'm getting cheated, but probably not. No. Yeah.
The important thing is knowing what you're paying for.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad you put that together because, you know, in fact, already I've learned something I didn't even know that with the Google One account, I have features that I've never taken advantage of.
Yeah. So
So,
now you know
like
you
a live
can
stream to
use it to
YouTube,
live stream.
live
Hmm.
stream to YouTube might be really valuable. I've never done one, and maybe maybe it's
You,
time.
you know, you can choose for it to be unlisted or
Yeah.
private if you just want to try it so that nobody sees you. If you just want to test it, I do that. You know, if I just want to try something out. And you can also record yourself. So if you wanted to record
Yeah.
yourself making a presentation, you could do it that way.
Oh no, that you know, in fact, that's a wonderful suggestion. I really should try that.
Yeah, give it a shot. You have those features, so
I'm just wondering, using my smartphone, if I couldn't do that live from like a forested settings, if I had connection to, you know, to towers, you know. So,
yeah. So the problem is some of the Google Meet features, most the recording and live streaming, you have to start them from desktop,
oh,
which is,
okay.
I mean, but you could, if you wanted to live stream in the field, you can use the YouTube app to live stream directly.
Oh,
It
there you
doesn't
go.
have screen sharing, but
Uh,
if you just want to say, hey, this is what I'm looking at, it would work as long as you have a strong enough internet connection.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's what I'm just thinking like short little clips, not like an hour presentation. Yeah.
Uh, so I think that is the chat for today. I think that we talked about some interesting things. If people have questions or comments, post them in the comments. And a reminder that December 1st, is that correct? Of course. Obviously, I'm bad at doing this. Oh, yes. So December 1st, Sunday, is Commitment 2025. That's OnEBoard's annual commitment discussion. You talk about what you did over the past year and what your goals are for the coming year. It's always kind of a highlight. Have you thought of what you're going to talk about, Bob?
Oh yeah, yeah. My buzzword is the future.
Oh, don't spoil it. I'm not going to spoil mine. I'll talk about it when we're in the live stream, but I hope people are able to join us in the chat and talk about what their plans are for the new year. And now thank everybody for watching today, and we will see you again in 2 weeks for the next OnEBoard chat. So thanks, everyone.
Have a good day, everybody.